You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Jen, Executive Director and Founder of Shepherd's Rest Goat and Sheep Rescue. Welcome, Jen.
Thanks for having me back, Polly. I really appreciate it.
Yes, the first podcast was so interesting. I had to have you back because there's so many great things that you're doing with goat and sheep. So tell us, what is the GO.A.T program?
So the GO.A.T program stands for Go Out and Thrive. And in addition to doing animal-assisted therapy, I'm also a board-certified activity director. And I worked in the nursing home setting for a decade. And I started doing animal-assisted therapy with one of my Great Pyrenees as a therapy dog, kind of in a normal way. And I realized that some patients were reactive to dogs. I don't like them. I'm allergic. I was bit once. There's a fear factor there, no matter how wonderful the dog is. So my daughter was doing 4-H, and I thought, well, let's do a practice at the nursing home I was working with, and they can practice showing, and the adults can do the quiz bowl for the kids. And what happened next was every single person who had turned me down for animal-assisted therapy with the dogs were all over the goats. And I thought,
ding, ding,
this
ding,
is
ding.
something. So I started bringing the goats in, and literally, I had a full date book of who I was to visit on what days, and when we would get a bottle baby into rescue, they would line up outside my door when it was time to bottle feed to be able to feed the babies.
Oh, how cute.
So, and I really realized that, goats, most people don't realize goats were domesticated at the exact same time dogs were almost 11,000 years ago. They cue to human emotions. They cue to human feelings. They bond very closely with people, and they are wickedly intelligent. So you can, and goats want to teach themselves to do things, which makes them great in a therapy session. Sometimes. I had one of my residents who deliberately taught one of my therapy goats how to untie the ties on her walker bag.
Oh, wow.
And she thought that was so funny, teaching it to untie the ties on her walker bag. What she didn't realize is that the goat now knew how to untie everything on her.
Yeah.
Because they can cross-apply those skills.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, it's got a knot in it, I can untie it. We have one here that opens doorknobs. It's not the first goat I've had that has taught itself how to open a doorknob.
Oh, that's right.
So you don't train a goat. A goat has functional intelligence. They'll look at a problem and you can literally watch the wheels turning. Okay, I want it to do this. How do I make it happen? So in a therapy situation, that gives you an endless amount of ways to interact with patients with different physical and mental needs.
That's wonderful.
And so there's tons of studies that show animal-assisted therapy is highly beneficial. Not only physiological changes like range of motion, where you work with things like brushing, grooming, walking animals, we're using an assistive device, letting them help feed, but also psychologically, it helps give people a feeling that they have self-worth. And especially in dementia patients, that is so key, because a lot of those folks feel like they don't have any self-worth. And so to see that they're doing something for a being that clearly appreciates it is huge.
I think that that's wonderful. So in my past, I have volunteered at the Illinois Rehab Institute, and I would work with the therapy dogs. Like the owners would drop the dogs off, and then volunteers have the dogs, and I worked with burn victims and stroke victims, and having them hold the brush and pet the golden or the black lab, and so this is kind of neat because it's so unique that I'm sure people are just excited to see a goat. It's just
absolutely
it's just not a dog. It's a goat. I'm sure if I was in, some type of nursing home and all of a sudden a goat showed up, it's kind of cute.
Well, and they are so, like I said, they know who likes them, and they literally make room routes. They remember whose room they are going to go trot in.
Oh, that's so
and
cool.
Go visit.
Yeah.
Goats are really very undercredited for their emotional intelligence.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I didn't know they were
very
smart.
bright.
Yeah.
They are incredibly smart. Incredible. In fact, most of my life in the rescue is spent trying to figure out ways to outsmart goats. And I'm a college-educated woman who works full-time in the pharmaceutical industry. So I like to think I have a brain cellar.
Yeah.
But every day there's something new.
And so
something new.
Are they like dogs? Like when you walk out to your field, do they recognize you and run over? Or do you have goats that have different personalities where some are like, oh, I know who you are, I don't need to come and see you? Like how does that work?
They are all different. Just like no two dogs are the same. They are all different. We just had goat yoga here on the farm this morning, and we had probably about 40 goats who came out to meet everybody of all sizes, because we believe that why should it just be baby goats that do goat yoga? Everybody can do goat yoga. Mm-hmm. And so we had about 40 goats who came out, and we allow them to choose who wants to participate and who doesn't. Oh they came out, they checked everybody out, and they turned around, and the ones that didn't want to stay, didn't stay. In fact, some of our biggest goats, and I'm talking 200-pound plus goats, are our best goat yoga goats because all they want to do is snuggle.
Oh.
And they know who needs to be snuggled.
So I don't even know, how much does a goat weigh?
Well, it's a really good question, Polly. And I will tell you, most goats, this is the sad fact, most goats go to slaughter between 9 and 12 months old.
Oh.
So your average market weight is a lot different than what you see here. So we have goats that weigh, well, our little 5-week-old that we're taking care of right now, she's about 6 pounds. We have goats that weigh close to 300 pounds and everywhere in between. So it depends on the breed. It depends upon, obviously, nutritional status and age. So we do a lot with making sure that their diet is correct to make sure that their health is optimal and they maintain their weight. So the people at Kansas State ever so nicely referred to one of my goats as being over-conditioned, which is the nice way of saying we're a little tubby.
That sounds like my pug. I'll have to say that
And
next
just
time
so
one of my children say, "Oh, Oliver's looking a little fat."
no, he's over conditioned.
So let me ask you this, because this might be naive, but I'm sure there's a lot of people. I mean, why do they slaughter the goats? Like, what meat is that? I've never heard of goat meat.
Goat is a heavily used meat, especially in the southern United States, but we do have a lot of goat breeders. It's typically boar goats that are the meat goats, unless you're unfortunate enough to be born as a male dairy goat. And most of the time you end up as a taco as well, because you're not going to be producing milk. Something else I want listeners to kind of understand, because everybody always says, "Oh, do you sell goat milk and goat cheese?" And I have to explain, in order to do that, we would have to breed, because mammals don't produce milk unless there's something for it to produce for, right? So therefore, we don't have goat cheese, and that's where this little 5-week-old came from. Was a breeder who just simply didn't need her. She needed her mom to be pregnant so they could have the
Oh,
milk.
that's so sad. That cycle. I mean, there just needs to be
So-
some better, with all the technology and
and-
stuff. You'd think that they'd come up with some artificial.
And I have a very close friend who's actually providing milk for this little girl, who runs a very ethical dairy, and none of her animals go anywhere. She takes care of her animals, and she does long milking, which means if you milk twice a day, every day, you don't have to get them pregnant every year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But it's very labor intensive.
Okay.
And then, so there are ethical folks out there, but unfortunately in this world, if you're born a male dairy goat, some breeders euthanize them as soon as they come out and they see that they're boys, because there's no need for it.
Oh, that's too
And it
bad.
breaks my heart.
Yeah, that's too bad. Wow. That whole livestock is just a whole different world.
It is. And I will tell you, the other thing that's really sad, we lost last year one of my favorite goats. Her name was Eleanor, to jaw cancer. And it is illegal to provide her with chemotherapy or radiation because she's a goat. Therefore, she could possibly maybe enter the food chain. Therefore, she could possibly be eaten with chemo and radiation in her. So all we could do was provide her with palliative care until she passed, and it broke my heart because I felt she deserved more than that.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
And that's, if it was a dog, we could have done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're no different.
Sure.
Pet goats are no different.
Sure. And especially when it's one of your own. You know, that's probably hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so.
Well, and Eleanor was a rescue, but she was just a very special girl.
Yeah. My daughter's name is Eleanor.
I love it.
Ellie. Okay, so back to the topic. So do you do private events?
We absolutely do. We had a birthday party going on at our goat yoga this morning. We go out and do corporate events. We do events like when a town has, it's like for Hickman Heydays, we do a goat yoga for that. We do go to corporations or have them come out here. We do one big event for the Girl Scouts every year, so we absolutely do private events.
And on your website, I saw that you have Cubicle Cuddle. What is that?
Cubicle Cuddles is where we will bring a goat to your business and we go cubicle to cubicle and allow people to just have goat snuggle time and decompress and get that benefit of being with nature and someone who loves them. And our goats love to be cuddled. So this is, it's just a great way to bring some energy into a business.
Wow, that's so cool. What a great idea. How did you come up with that idea?
I spent part of my career in the cubicle, and I know that sometimes you just really need something to boost your morale. And that's where it came from.
So my daughter just graduated from college, and I said something to her, and she said, I will never work in a be in a cubicle. And I thought, it's kind of empowering, just that generation where now everything can be remote. It's pretty neat.
Yep.
Where I am in my 50s and I used to have to drive an hour to get to an office and then check in and then leave, because I was in sales. I mean, just think of the waste of time on that.
Hey, I have been in the pharmaceutical industry for 25 years, and I am now in a remote position. So this is not my full-time gig. I actually work a full-time regular job to fund the rescue.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Right.
do the rescue.
Right.
So, but I am very blessed to be with a company that allows me to be remote. I couldn't do what I do without having that luxury of being remote.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how Bark and Wag is. I have a full-time job to fund Bark and Wag. So I get it. Okay. So this is so neat. Can people volunteer at your shelter or rescue?
Absolutely. And one thing I do want to mention, going back to corporate events, private events, we do events with like the University of Nebraska. We do a couple events a year. We do have a special type of insurance, which covers not only on-farm events, but it covers events when we travel. So that is something that we do carry and can provide a certificate of liability, which is real important.
Okay.
So I just wanted to mention that we always need volunteers. We are a volunteer-run organization. Volunteering can run anything from coming in the evening, helping get everybody fed and into the barn, to coming out and just spending time with the goats, helping with things like hoof trimming, which is sometimes a 2-person job where I can trim and somebody can hold, putting out hay, there's a lot of different things that folks can do that are really wonderful. We have a wonderful company, Builder Tech, out of Omaha, who comes twice a year and does their whole corporate day of service out here.
Oh.
With about 20 people who just really help us do all those things that we don't have the time to do on a daily basis.
Wow, that's wonderful. And so do you have a form on your website, or how do people, get a hold of you?
On the website, there is a link that says volunteer, and you can absolutely click that link. I always encourage people to. You can email us. That link's on the website as well. I will get back to you. We're on Facebook. That is probably the number one way people reach out to us is on Facebook at Shepherd's Rest Rescue. And we really appreciate having folks out. And it is kind of a paradise out here. I mean, we are tucked way out in the country at the end of a dead-end road on a historic farmstead with the original 1919 Big Red Barn on a stream. So it's like going back in time into a forest.
So we're
full of a lot of goats.
Right, so where exactly are you located?
So we are just north of Pickerel, Nebraska. The fortunate thing is we are right off the main highway, which is Highway 77. And Cedar Road, the road that we're on, actually dead ends into our barn. So you really can't miss.
Oh my God, no, it was hysterical.
Yeah, if you're at the Big Red Barn, you're here.
Oh, how funny. And so what about supplies? Like we volunteer at different animal shelters and they always need supplies. What do you guys need supplies or?
One of the things, there are several things that are really, really helpful for us that people always ask me, what do you need for supplies? Some really silly things, and they aren't silly, but we need various sizes of collars. Because like I said, we have from a 5-pound goat up to a 250-pound goat. We need various sizes of collars. We need leashes. We need different sizes of diapers because when we have the bottle babies, it's generally size 6 diapers that they wear. And we cut a little hole in the human diapers. We cut a little hole in the back for the tail and pull the tail out and put the diaper on. We always need things that can be easily gotten from like Tractor Supply or Amazon. Purina goat feed is another big thing that we always need. Our feed bill's about $320 a week.
Oh, wow.
And that does not include hay. Our hay bill is about $1,400 every 6 weeks.
Okay, so can you send me a link that I can put in the show notes on how to donate?
I absolutely can. And it is also, there's a donate button right on the webpage.
Great. Well, I'll put that on the show notes, and we certainly appreciate you being on the podcast and would love to have you back.
I would love to come back. Thank you so much for thinking about us. Like I said, we're little, but we're doing mighty big, important work and giving peace of mind to people who need to know that their animals are loved before they can go on the next part of their journey, whatever that is.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.